Oh. Welcome to your nightmare. Welcome to the best Souls-like game that we've ever had. And I honestly think this will be steep competition for Lies of P, which is my most anticipated Souls-like because that game is incredible. Welcome to Remnant 2, my review of Remnant 2, the sequel to Remnant from the Ashes. I hope you enjoy this Remnant 2 game review. Let's go. How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with your boy, the Savior. Oh yes, it's great to be back, and I'm just so excited because I am a massive Dark Souls fan. If you don't know how much of a Dark Souls nerd I am, well, I'm about to show you. Here is a little figurine. Maybe you can't see. Let me turn on the light. Wow, look at my professional setup. Yes, here's a little Dark Souls figure. I love Dark Souls. Did you know I love Dark Souls? I love Dark Souls. Did you know that? Here's a Dark Souls book. Yeah, I'm pretty, I'm deep in this shit, okay? I need help. Yes, I love Dark Souls. Did you know I love Dark Souls? It's literally the best game ever made. And when a developer takes inspiration from Dark Souls and doesn't just copy and paste its mechanics like so many Souls-like have done. I've made videos before trashing Souls-like games, and there's plenty of examples out there that just copy and paste what Dark Souls is. They know why it's successful and they don't try and innovate or do anything unique. That's why I'm so excited for Remnant 2, because it is not like those games. It's not like a copy and pasted Souls-like. It doesn't just try and be like Dark Souls. This is its own unique thing, just like Lies of P. And those games, they make me so happy because it means we don't get any more Dark Souls. That's very sad, but we have new games that take the spirit of Dark Souls and innovates on the formula, and that's why I absolutely love the genre of Souls-like when it's actually done right, not the, bloated copy and pasted stuff. Come with me to another dimension.
What about my shredder? What about my shredder? What about my personal shredder? What about my shredder?
Think of Remnant more as a third-person tactical shooter with Souls-like mechanics, because that's exactly what it is. It's way more focused on action, it's a lot more forgiving with the difficulty, and the, invincibility frames that you get for rolling around. It's a lot more forgiving than something like Dark Souls where you have to be more precise. This isn't so much about skill, and I know that might piss off a lot of people. I'm not saying you can play this game and be a complete casual. You do actually have to be good at this type of game, but it's more about tactics, whereas Dark Souls is more about timing and playing with absolute perfection. Remnant is a little bit more forgiving because this is a multiplayer shooter and you rely on your friends or your group to have your back, and that aids a lot in the combat. You can play with solo, but it is a lot more difficult solo, and you have to be far more conservative and tactical. But overall, this game is great because it blends the genre of third-person shooter and action-based shooter with Souls-like combat. If you are new to the channel, I simply ask before we get into my Remnant 2 review that you do subscribe. It takes 2 seconds for you guys, literally 2 seconds, a tap of the button, but you just completely transform my life if you no, that's gay. But if you do subscribe, you have entered a blood pact. You have joined the Savior Empire, the Savior community. You have chosen to become a wise boy, and if you stay long enough, then you will be an OG sinner, and then you have my utmost respect. I want to do something amazing with this channel. I want to do, bring back the good old days of YouTube. I'm starting a weekly show where it's a lot more personal, it's a lot more, hands-on with my community, because I absolutely love discussing anything with you guys in the comments. So I'm starting a weekly show. So join the channel today and you will not be disappointed, because if you love game reviews, I'm on it straight away. I do my reviews early because we can't trust the gaming establishment as it is right now. There's a lot of false information, a lot of lies by developers. Games nowadays are falsely marketed. They are usually released in a broken state, and it's filled with all kinds of problems with just BS shills like IGN and other YouTubers who praise the games in previews and then do a 180. You just can't trust the gaming establishment. So that's why I base my reviews on all of the research that I do. I do extensive research so you don't have to, so I can do an accurate review. And if I do get hands-on, and most of the time I do, I base it on my hands-on own experience of the game. And I have managed to play some of Remnant 2, so I hope you enjoy this video. Like I said, subscribe if you like game reviews, retrospective gaming content and video essays, philosophical videos, all of that stuff. I will work hard for you guys if you do subscribe.
Oh my god, just like Dark Souls! Just like Dark Souls!
So with Remnant 2, you get 3 different difficulties and then an extra one that you can unlock after completing it. And they are Survival, Veteran, or Nightmare mode. Now, Survival, I would say, is a little bit too casual, but that is what most people will be playing on. And that's when you can really feel that, this game is far more forgiving than something like a Souls game, with how the enemies deal damage, how the enemies react to you, and your invincibility frames just feels far more forgiving. This feels challenging but rewarding and fair. I wouldn't say it ever gets the combat difficulty balance as well tuned as Dark Souls, because that's a set difficulty, so of course they do have to do some balancing. But all in all, I do think this is a rewarding experience, and you do get that hit of dopamine when you successfully destroy a boss, but it's just never to the same degree as something like Dark Souls. But I do think it does an amazing job. And now with the boss battles, it's just far better, because the bosses before, they were great, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they felt a little bit recycled. Not so much with how the bosses actually, engage with combat, but more so their looks and the kind of environmental storytelling going on. Here it's a lot more unique, and now it's not predictable because the bosses can enter many phases of different styles of attacks, which just keeps the combat from feeling stale and always keeps you on the edge of your seat. So with Remnant 2, you get 2 separate modes. You get the story campaign mode, which I would recommend you go through, and then you also get adventure mode. This is basically for if you want to find certain loot, if you want to go anywhere in the world and transport to any location, any hub area, because it's not a connected map like Dark Souls. They are separate world spaces, but they are all very big. If you want to go and explore anywhere or go to any dungeon to fight a certain boss, this is the best mode for that, where it's just kind of an open-ended, in some ways a looter shooter, because it does borrow some elements from looter shooters with how it dishes out rewards and weapons and armor and stuff like that. But if you want a more open-ended experience, then adventure mode is the best bet for you. Now with Remnant 2, there are 4 base classes and an extra one if you do a pre-order and you get to play this early. That's how I got to see hands-on. But basically 5 main classes, and that is the Hunter, the Challenger, the Medic, the Handler, and the Gunslinger. So the Challenger is more of a up-close and personal class, where it's basically dealing melee attacks and using close-range weaponry like shotguns and stuff like that. And the Hunter is more for the long-range sniper, if you like that type of class. The Handler is very interesting because you get a side companion called Jeffy, and yeah, he's not called Jeffy, but anyway, you can use your little companion here to basically aggro the enemies, take the heat away from you, and then you can actually give your allies buffs and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting kind of subclass. The Medic, of course, heals, and it also buffs your friends with, some health bonuses and stuff like that, which is very useful. And finally, we have the Gunslinger, and this is a super cool class because if you like fast-paced action and if you like a DPS class, this is perfect for you. Also, the Gunslinger is perfect for if you want to focus into critical damage, because with Gunslinger, it's all about critical hits, and if you get extra buffs and bonuses or equipment, that will, you know, help you amplify that critical damage, you can really do a lot of damage with this class. Now, the cool thing about Remnant 2 is the Archetype Classes and how you can actually mix and match different classes and create subclasses. And this is so cool. This wasn't in the first game. This is what makes this game unique and adds to way more replayability. Also, the melee has been kind of overhauled here. It feels much more faster, it feels more weighty and just more responsive. Whereas before it was all focused around gunplay, and still it's mostly focused around gunplay, but you can be a melee build if you want now, which is really cool. But obviously don't expect, like, you know, shields or anything like that, but it is a lot more fleshed out, and I just love the fact that you can create your own class now by blending classes together, so that's a super cool mechanic. Now, usually with my game reviews, I give you some positives and I give you some negatives. I don't just slap a BS score at the end of the video, because gaming is a subjective experience, just like anything in life. You're either gonna like this game or you're not. That's down to you as a person. But I don't feel the need to give you some positives or negatives with Remnant 2, because so far everything I've said is a positive. This game is great. Remnant from the Ashes was already a great game, and Remnant 2 just builds upon the formula and makes it better. I do hope you are enjoying this Remnant 2 review. If you are, make sure you give a like. I don't usually ask, but apparently that helps with the YouTube magical robots that run things. And leave me a comment, because I like to know what you think. And a final quick shilling, as I'm not sponsored today, I do hope you check out my electronic synth music on Spotify. I will leave a link in the pinned comment. It's not like anything else, and if you want extra content, I've got a whole playlist of content only for members, and you can always help support the show by dropping a small donation. Now, traits are very important in Remnant 2, because they basically act as your skill tree, as your perk tree, and basically the way you unlock new traits is by, you know, exploring, and you find these tomes of knowledge, you find these tomes of knowledge, and this is how you level up your kind of skill tree, your perk tree, and I think that's a super interesting way of doing it. I personally like when you are using, you know, whatever playstyle you're using. If you're focused on shotguns, if you're focused on melee, then slowly you level up and, you know, you get better in that one aspect. I like how RPGs and stuff like that do that type of mechanic. With Remnant 2, it's all about exploration, and if you can survive long enough to explore, and basically it rewards you for that. So it does it in a slightly different way, but I still think that's far more refreshing than just going up a standard perk tree, and I'm glad that they did something different. So like I said before, Remnant 2 does rely a lot on random loot drops, and that's how you basically find new loot, weapons, and stuff like that. Of course, you can upgrade your weapons and your armor, and now armor doesn't actually have unique, you know, traits and abilities like it did before. I think that was an interesting choice, because now it just means you can be more focused on what you look like instead of worrying about if a certain piece of clothing has a special ability to it, which I think was a cool decision. There's even more customization with weapon mods, which changes your playstyle and, you know, changing your class, like I said before, and with relics, which basically means it's basically, you know, a power up, and you can use this ability, it's on a cooldown and stuff like that, because now you can truly have your own customizable experience and your own unique playstyle, your own unique subclass, and that is just so cool. It makes exploring this world, which is now more detailed, which now has better environmental storytelling and all that kind of stuff, far more engaging, you know, just the experiences when you're going from one location to the next. It's not all just running around like it was before. Now, like I said, there are some unique things that I won't spoil that actually happen within locations. You know, the level itself might change and move. You might be on a platform that is moving about, or you might have to jump from one platform to the next while fighting a boss. All of this stuff just makes this game far more interesting than before. And now I'm going to end on just a few negatives, because there are some that I do think needs to be addressed, but they're nothing major. And that's basically, there needs to be a more customizable difficulty mode for solo play, because solo play in this game is brutally difficult, and it's not a fun, fair type of difficulty like other Souls-like games. It's expected that you do play this within a group, because otherwise you do have to be super conservative. It's not as fun, I don't think, and that's a shame, because a lot of people will want the challenge of playing this solo, but they need to fine-tune the difficulty or make a separate difficulty mode just for solo play, Also, I do think that the rolling is a little bit too forgiving, and I prefer a little bit more skillful play, especially in a Souls-like. And movement speed does feel a little bit unforgiving at times, because rolling about and how much you can carry feels a little bit biased and overly forgiving compared to other Souls-like games. But when you're actually sprinting about, no matter what kind of weight you have on, just feels a little bit unbalanced at times, and it feels like you're moving a little bit too slowly, but for some reason you can roll about with a bunch of, heavy gear on, which doesn't make as much sense. But overall, I do think Remnant 2 is a massive upgrade. This is a great gem, and I think this game, the second one, will finally show people why Remnant from the Ashes was an amazing Souls-like, because we haven't seen, a Souls-like blend with third-person shooting, kind of looter-shooter action game before, and I think this just does the perfect balance. And the final negative, and the final negative is the story here. Doesn't really get much better than the first one. It's still just not that interesting. I would prefer a more, unique story, or one that makes you question things more instead of everything being told to you. So that is my Remnant 2 review, my review of Remnant 2, the Remnant from the Ashes sequel, Remnant from the Ashes 2, whatever you want to call it. I do hope you enjoyed my Remnant 2 review, and please let me know what you think down below in the comments if you're going to get this game or not. I don't think this is going to be for everyone, but I do think if you're a fan of Souls-like and third-person shooting, don't be put off by the comparison to Dark Souls, because it's difficult, but it's not as difficult, and it's very accessible, especially if you're playing in a group, and you're going to have a fun time. I just love games that are trying something new, and I do feel this does do a lot of new things, but yeah, I do think this is a great game, but I'm mostly excited for Lies of P, because I think that's going to be a game changer. Please let me know what you think down below in the comments. Let me know if you did enjoy this Remnant 2 review, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.